Let me unmute. Oh. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Let's Talk Sports show host. The day after I'm super sunburnt tonight, this morning, but welcome. Wake up, drink some coffee. We got our Sunday morning special show for you as always. I am your host, Bodkins, as always, and joining me as none other than my Puerto Rican brother, Mr. Yankee fan, Johnny Cruz.
What up? What up? What up? Good morning, man. What's going on,
Johnny? Good morning. How's it going? There's a little bit of sports still going on. I mean, we got through the NBA draft. A little college baseball World Series is happening. A little baseball. The Cubs kicked the shit out of the Cardinals across the pond yesterday, and getting ready to play game 2 today over there. So I'm excited to see if we can sweep my arch rival, the Cardinals. And also joining us as always is none other than Mr. Gambling himself, Mr. Scott Cobe.
What up? What up?
I won the pool at the nursing home last night, so I'm a little bit blowing money in my.
Scott, before I ask you the gambling pits, let's go ahead and bring in our super producer, Tanner D. Tanner.
What up? What up?
What's up, Tanner?
What up?
And Sam is he's MIA this morning. He's got some business he's got to handle. So best of luck to Sam handling some business. And
shout out to Sam.
So we'll keep him in our thoughts here. Scott, who did we bet on yesterday? How'd it go? And then who we betting on today?
Well, we took the Cubs because Adam Wainwright is terrible, obviously, as you could see yesterday if you watched the game. I took Toronto on the run line. They beat Oakland. I took Arizona. They lost by a run. So those three.
The Rays lost to the freaking Royals. That cost
unbelievable. Unbelievable. But
2 out of 3 so far.
Too. They don't lose at home, and they lost at home to the Royals.
And they lost to Jordan Lyles, the guy that is 0-14 in the season. So he had his first.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable how Jordan Lyles still has a starting pitching job in the majors. I have no idea.
Well, he plays for the Royals, so
yeah,
right.
That's true.
They don't have anybody better, Scott.
Starting pitching is at a premium in Major League Baseball.
Are not pretty right now. So let's just say that.
No, they are not. They are not. And the other team that I'm on lately has been the Cincinnati Reds.
They lost yesterday.
They lost, but they the plus 1.5 on the run line. I took the run line. So
nice.
It was 7-4 going into the ninth inning. I was like, oh, this ain't gonna hit. And then they scored 2 in the ninth against Iglesias, who imploded almost again. So I won that bet as well. So and I'm on the Reds again today. I think that if the weather is nice in Cincinnati, which it should be, which I saw it should be, home runs will go out of that park like it's up in Coors Field. As Johnny said before the show, he turned on the Angels game right when they scored 13 runs in the third inning. That's the type of game you get in Cincinnati. It's a small ballpark. The heat, the ball flies out of there.
So we're taking over on the runs of the Cincinnati game. I'm
on both the Reds run line and the over, which is at 11.5, I believe. I'm on that over because that's a bandbox. It's an absolute bandbox. In the summertime, you're going to see 9 to 7 games, 10 to 6 games, stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm on those two, and I'm on the Phillies money line.
Did we all freeze, or is that just Scott?
No, we're good.
Okay.
No, and I'm on the Phillies.
What's going on, Alan? Good, Scott.
I'm on the Phillies money line today too. I think the pitching advantage goes toward the Phillies today. So.
All right, so we're taking the over on the Reds game.
Yep, Reds on the run line, and
Reds
Phillies
run line,
and Phillies money line.
And Phillies money line.
Yeah,
we're all taking notes and shit.
No run first inning pitch is going to be Minnesota Detroit today. That's mine.
Yeah.
What do you got? What was that?
Minnesota Detroit. No runs in the first inning.
Okay.
Yeah, and I forgot that, but Alan's little comment there about the Rangers. The Yankees can't freaking score. Seriously. So I mean, we won 1-0 yesterday. So I would not be surprised if the Yankees manage a run today. So I would. Yeah, Texas could probably beat the hell out of the Yankees today. So yesterday was a pretty good day for me as far as baseball. Like Scott, you mentioned, I caught the Angels game last night right as they were coming to bat. So I caught Trout's home run. I caught the first of the back-to-back home run. It was crazy, bro, because it was like, oh, cool. I caught it at the perfect time. Maybe I get a nice little inning here, and it went insane. How that inning, kept on going, and then of course you hit me up with the college game, so I turned over to the college game. As soon as I turn over to the college game, it's LSU coming to bat in the 11th, and homeboy hits the senior kid hits the home run. So as far as a baseball fan, yeah, it was pretty nice last night. As far as a good 40 minutes of watching baseball, because that Angels inning, that was forever, man. That 13-run inning was crazy.
What was the final score of that game? It was like 20-0.
It was 23-0.
25-1 was the
25. That doesn't even set the record, though, right? Was the record's like 30? Somebody told me it's 30. The record's like somebody scored 30, and that's the record.
Yeah, but when you think about it, the Angels scored 21 runs in the third and the fourth inning by themselves.
Yeah, right. That was 2 innings,
and the second thing is Colorado traded Mike Moustakas to the Angels after the game. So they said, you guys beat us, you can have Moustakas. Here you go.
So Mike Trout almost batted for a third time in the third inning. I've never seen it. He did want to bat in the third time?
No, he didn't. He ended up getting back up.
I think it was like one batter before. I think or two batters, because I don't think
it was like one or two batters.
So they batted around almost 3 times.
Yes, bro.
No.
That was
never
seen that.
So your records right now in MLB since 1900 is the Rangers had 30 and the Orioles had 3 on August 22nd, 2007. Braves with 29, the Marlins had 9, September 9th, 2020. And the White Sox 29, Kansas City A's 6, 1955. 1950, the Red Sox 29, St. Louis Browns 4, Jays 28, Red Sox 5. So it's up there. I mean, it definitely stands out. But yeah, there's been some crazy games like that in the past for sure.
That's why
the Angels scored more points, scored more runs than what the Rams did at some games last year. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rangers beat the by the way, I don't know if you guys caught it. After they beat the Rockies, the Moustakas actually got an exchange for 9 anymore. I love it, Alan. But Moustakas literally they lost the game, and then they traded Moustakas to the Angels. So, just like that.
Please
I mean, if I'm Mike Moustakas, I'll take that trade, right?
I'm about to say, how do you react to something like that? You just got embarrassed, and and then 5 minutes later, you're traded to the other team. So it's like, okay, cool.
The one thing about baseball, though, because it's every day, you take your ass whooping, and then you get a chance to go out today and redeem.
I get it.
And then by next week, everybody forgot you got your ass kicked by 25-1. It's not like quite like
everybody
football.
Else might forget.
Yeah,
that's something that you're gonna hold on to for a hot minute, knowing that you got stomped like that. You know what I'm saying? That's insane.
Well, the Rockies absolutely stink,
bro. That field, that stadium, bro. That ball does fly out of there, man.
Yeah, it does.
It's crazy, bro.
Scott, you mentioned the Reds and they lost yesterday, but they had won like 11 in a row up to yesterday. I mean, nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody saw this coming from the Reds. This De La Cruz kid is an absolute stud. Hit for the cycle, I think, on Thursday or Friday night.
Friday.
I mean, this kid he's phenomenal. And the Reds, since he's been called up, they've just been on a rocket ship.
Yeah, and so the deal is sometimes guys come up and they spur a team on, and all of a sudden they start playing better and better. And that's what happened, because the Reds are like 13-3 with De La Cruz on the major league roster. Then Joey Votto comes off the IL and he hits a home run the first game he's off the IL.
2 home runs, a home run, and then had the game-winning RBI, I believe.
Yeah,
right.
So if you look at their pitching staff after Green, it's really not as good as you think. Luke Weaver's not a great pitcher. Ashcraft's not a really good pitcher. So they don't really have a pitching staff. So that all that talk that we've had on the baseball show with Jonathan, how he thinks Shane Bieber would be a great fit for Cincinnati, he's right. They need one more really good starting pitcher, because they're not – if they could win that division, they're not going very far in the playoffs with their – as constituted. Because once you get in the playoffs, you're not going to see 10-7 games. You're going to see more like 6-3 games, 6-4 games. So they need that one anchor pitcher. Like a few years ago, I think they get trade for Trevor Bauer when they were in the chase for
remember that's when he got mad and chucked the ball out, or Was it when he was with the Reds or the Guardians when he chucked
Nah, he was with
the ball to the outfield?
He was with the Guardians.
He was with the Guardians and then got traded
he was with
2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So
To the
Cincinnati
Reds.
offensively is really, really good. But pitching-wise, they just need that one more starter, I think, to kind of get them over the top.
Do they actually make a move, though? I think that's the issue because Reds are usually sellers, and they have been. They have been the last 5 years. They sell. Do they actually try to make a move since they are first place in the division and try to keep this thing going? Or do they disappoint the fans again and not make any moves?
I think. Well, here's the thing.
Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead, Scott.
I think they do simply because of this fact. St. Louis is not independent in the chase this year.
Right.
I think if they thought St. Louis would be a contender to win the division, I think they would probably more likely stand pat. But because the division's so wide open this year, I think they'll make a move to try to win the division.
Well, they don't even have to make a move to win this division. That's the thing. You can't trust it. As a fan of that division, so obviously it's my division, the NL Central, that division's wide open. Nobody even has, I keep saying the Cubs should make a move because, but really, we don't even have to make a move because we're so up and down and so is everybody else. If you make a move, you probably put yourself over the top, but that division, only the Reds are 500 and they're 41-36. The Cubs are below 500 by 1 game. I guess the Milwaukee
the Brewers are
2 games above 500. Then you got the Pirates.
Are they back in first place?
The Pirates?
Are the Reds still first place, or is the
Brewers Reds are a game and a half above first of Milwaukee. The Cubs are 3 back. Pirates are 5.5 back, and the Cardinals are 9.5 back. I think. Wow. Speaking of the Cardinals, they might be the most disappointing team in all of baseball, and I'm so happy. My God, this makes my Cub heart. I could be in my worst depression mode of my life, and if somebody said, "Hey, the Cardinals are 9.5 out of first place," it just makes my day. I just got to pull up the standings and see the Cardinals in dead last, and just turns my whole life around.
Talk about a streaky division, bro. In the last 10, your Cubs and the Reds 9-1.
Yep.
The Pirates 1-9. Talk about a sinking ship, man. They had a nice start in the beginning. I was hopeful for them to be able to keep it going. The Brewers 5-5 and the Cardinals 4-6 in the last 10.
And here's the thing: what I tell people all the time, in a week's time, though, the Reds could lose 9 of their last 10. The Cubs could lose 9 of their last 10. The Cardinals, I still feel like with their talent of roster, could still win this damn thing. I've seen it my whole life, and they don't play until August. The Cardinals could be dead last, and then August they win 20 out of the last 15, 30 games or something, and then they win the division because that's what happens. So the Brewers have been not really hot, or not really low. They're the steady ship, right? They've been the
more consistent team. They're going to be hanging around there. They may not take it above the level, but they're not going to drop a level. They're just going to chill right here. And if they get first place, they get first place. If they drop a little bit, sure. They're always
that's
right
why
there.
To answer your question, Tanner, I think Cincinnati's going to wait until the actual deadline or the day before or something like that. They ain't going to make a move too early because, like Nick's saying, in a week they could lose 5 or 6 in a row and then be in third place. So I think they'll wait till the very last minute to make a move, and then if they're still streaking, if they're still in first place or playing fairly good baseball like they have, because they're even fun to watch. You know what I'm saying with this kid. So if they keep on going on streaks like this and stay in first place, I think they do make a move. I don't know about the Bieber move, even though I agree. I mean that just sounds like
that'd be insane.
Fit.
I don't think
that sounds like a perfect fit, man. I don't know. I mean, they're not the type to do shit like that, like you mentioned. You saying even though you say they got Sonny Gray a couple years ago, or whatever, but whatever. But I mean, you talk about Bieber is an actual ace. That's going to cost them some pieces. Do they actually do something like that? I hope they do, man.
I do like that, Johnny, because I do agree, because you got to think about too where they're at, what division they're in. This isn't a winner and a wild card. This is you win the division, you're in the playoffs. If you don't win the division, you're sitting back at home.
Right,
so that is the very key of, are we actually in this thing, or is this just a cool win streak? And then now
the kid put some energy in the dugout. We went on a nice streak, and then now reality's gonna hit us. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna come back down to earth.
I like that.
It's a great story, man. I hope
you look at You look at the wild card for that Central. So Milwaukee's 4 back of the Dodgers and Miami. San Francisco has a half game lead. So those 3 teams, and then the Milwaukee's 4 back, Philly's 4 back, Cubs 5.5, Padres 6.5. You're just too much. No, those teams in the Central are not good enough to compete in that wild card with the likes of the Dodgers, the Marlins, and the Phillies. Like they're just not.
Too many teams playing way better right now.
Yeah,
on the other NL divisions right now.
And here's what we were saying before the season started: the NL East is going to get 3 playoff teams. I think it's the NL West that could get 3 playoff teams if the Dodgers get this stuff together. It's going to be Dodgers.
It should be the West.
It should
be
it
should be the West,
right?
Because of the Padres, Diamondbacks, and then the Dodgers. But you also have the Giants playing some weird ball right now. Yeah. They like to get beat down, but then they come out and crush these teams that they shouldn't be crushing. So
the Giants are 9-1 in their last 10.
Yeah, while everybody else in the division went basically mediocre. 5-5 for Arizona, 6-4 for the Dodgers. San Diego, man, just 4-6, and then the Rockies are the Rockies. But everybody else played mediocre, and the Giants had a nice 9-1 in their last 10 to go into second place, man. That's what I'm saying. A week can change everything.
It certainly can.
But I completely agree. I don't think anybody in the Central wins a wild card. So, like Tanner said, you either win that division or you at home watching. So I think that's what's going to put the delay. Yeah.
Torture baseball.
It's not just your Giants. It's across the league, man. I mean, there's a lot of surprises going on right now. I mean, I think it makes it fun. You know what I'm saying? Seeing all these different teams that you're not used to seeing actually playing well.
We're almost the great thing is we're almost halfway through the season. Like I think in like 2 weeks is the All-Star game. All-Star breaks usually right after the 4th of July. So we're right here about halfway through. The trade deadline will happen soon. What's that? What's the trade deadline? 1st of August, the last week of July, or something like that.
I'll get
something like that. They changed it around
like the 2nd or 3rd week of July.
They changed
20th or something like that.
They pushed it
August
back.
1st.
August 1st.
So we're a month away from the trade deadline. It's about to get real interesting, and we're gonna find out like who's some sellers and who's some who are the buyers. Who are the teams that say, hey, we need to push our chips in. We can add a piece. And what teams are giving up on the season. It'll be interesting with this double wild card too, man. Like that's one thing in the league. I felt like when the league went to this wild card, we've seen less trades almost because teams still feel like, hey, we can make this second wild card because even though we're third in our – you look at your Red Sox, Scott, they're 12 back of the division, but they're only like 3 back of the wild card.
That's crazy.
I know. So here's the deal with the Red Sox. Okay, they're a streaky team, as we can see now. Really streaky. But Paxton got hurt yesterday. Sale's been on the IL. He will continue to be on the IL. They got these young guys. Bello has come up and pitched fairly well. But other than that, Carter Crawford's going today against the White Sox. He's been awful. So to me, they're just so streaky, and so they could very easily lose the next 7 games. And be totally out of the wild card. That's how as Johnny said, that's how the season's gone. Teams can lose 7 and be out of a playoff spot, and then win 6 out of the next 8 and be into the wild card position again. So with the Red Sox, they've got to find a way to kind of stabilize here because they have a chance at the 3rd wild card spot because the American League is not really, really that good. Toronto struggled. The Yankees are not the same without Judge. The West, I don't know about the Angels. I know the Angels pounded the Rockies yesterday, but I just don't know about them and what they can do. So
here's the standings for the American Wild Card. So Baltimore's up 5.5 on everybody else. Then you got the Yankees who are a half game up on Toronto and the Angels. Then the defending champs are a half game back. Boston's 2 back. Seattle's 3.5 back. Cleveland's only 4 back. Like we're talking about trading Bieber from the
Where's the Royals, dude? I thought we just took 2 out of 3 from the Rays and about to take 3 out of 4 from them.
19.5
Royals up there yet?
No. They dug themselves a deep hole. I mean, you're talking about the Guardians trading their pitcher, but they're only a game back of the the division and only a couple back from. So why would they? They're not going to be sellers. Like,
see, but the Guardians are the type of team that'll do something like this because they always look 2, 3, 4 years down the road as well because they're a smaller market team. So this is one of those. Well, we could trade Bieber now when he's at his highest. And then we got pitching for the next 5 years and a bunch of good, a good farm system.
Here's a team that's going to sell, and if I'm a team, I'm throwing the whatever I can get. That's the White Sox. I'm trying to get Dylan Cease. That kid is an absolute stud, and they're pretty much their season's pretty much done. They're 6th back of their division. Like you can sell their middling around. Why not try to trade Dylan Cease and a couple? They got some good, decent young pitchers. Like Dylan Cease is at the top of that list. If I'm maybe not I don't know if the Reds have enough prospects. It would take a decent haul to get Dylan Cease, but that kid can pitch. He was up there in the
Reds
in the ERA.
By the way.
Yeah,
the Reds. Their farm system
sure.
is
So if I'm the Reds or somebody like that, like Dylan Cease is your ace. He's a guy you can throw against, another team's number one, like a team like that. You're looking at. I mean, the Nationals don't have they don't have a whole lot of great players either. So it's like
they're looking to trade, but it's weird too because I was reading on MLB.com on our trade report, just see names out there, see what's being thrown around, and it's these guys that are on win streaks. The Reds are out there on being sellers. Michael Conforto for the Giants, and it's still these teams, these bad teams that are still going to be sellers. I think in the end, Alan makes a good point here. Remember the Orioles traded Trey Mancini last year and got better. It could happen again.
Yeah, because they let the kids play.
Yeah,
you never know what is actually going on in that locker room until a guy gets traded, and it could be the difference of the world. It could be bringing in these young guys to give you new energy. My brother there in Milwaukee, he told me this year, he goes, "Hey, I love these young guys. There's so much energy. There's so much passion again. And that's something maybe they were missing last year. So maybe that's why they're just sitting here instead of going here, but it's kind of evened out there. So it's the difference in a locker room can make and break a season. The Hader trade last year, I guarantee you it broke a lot of hearts there in Milwaukee and not just the fan base, but probably the players. Cause that was a guy that they thought would be around for a while, and it's stuff like that. So we never know what a trade or a move could be a difference of. It can make you worse. It can, a bad team could get better, like the Orioles.
And the thing, the reports up here are suggesting the Red Sox might trade Adam Duvall. Okay.
Wow.
He's supposed to, I know that I was surprised when I read it. He's supposed to be your best power hitting outfielder in your lineup, and they may trade him at the trade deadline. So this is why I'm saying a team like the Red Sox, who you think might benefit from getting a piece in the bullpen or a piece on the pitching staff to help them to get to a wild card spot, might just trade 2 or 3 guys. And that signals that they're not serious about being.
I think there's going to be a lot of surprises when it comes to the trade deadline. And like we said, once we get a little closer to it, because, we mentioned there's a month to go. So anything can happen over these next few weeks. But finding out that Judge got a torn ligament and is probably going to be out for a hot minute. I mentioned this weeks ago, and I had Yankee fans saying that, that's not how Yankee fans think. Well, that's why, Yankee fans are annoying because they don't think this way. But if you have an opportunity to make your team better going down the road, like this year, they're never going to do this because this is just the Yankees. But Luis Severino finally had a good showing yesterday. How about, if you're not going to win a championship this year, how about trading off a couple of those pieces that you thought were going to be good, like him, like Glaber, something like that, replenish your farm system and bring up these kids, let the kids play. The hell with Josh? Why are you paying Josh Donaldson just because you paid him $25 million? That's your dumbass for getting him to pay him $25 million. That don't mean he has to play. So bring the young kids up, see what happens. If you don't make the playoffs, which you might not anyway, but to trade the few prospects that we do have in the system to get a piece to possibly move up a spot or two to then possibly get eliminated in the first round, like that to me is a waste. Something similar happened in 2016 where they got rid of some of those relievers and got some good players. They brought up the young kids, Judge. That was Sanchez's first year, and they kind of played well and actually made a run. You know what I'm saying? So, but and at the same time, they picked up, some good pieces for their farm system. This is the year to do something similar to that. You know what I'm saying? But they won't ever do it. So it is what it is. But I would take advantage of a year that's so crazy like this. I would go ahead here, Cincinnati. You want a Luis Severino? Take him. This team, you need a hitter here. Take Labor Tort. You know what I'm saying? Because these are good players. They're just not playing up to their abilities right now. You know what I'm saying? Take advantage and just, see what you can get for them and move on. Try to get younger, in my opinion. Because you got to think long term, because the Judge is going to be here for the next 9 years. So don't rush him back.
Is it time to get rid of?
We can't win without him.
Let me ask you this, Johnny, and then I'll let you go, Scott. Is it time to get rid of Giancarlos?
They never should have traded for him, in my opinion. I never liked that trade because all you did was double up on the big, the big home run strikeout guy because you had Aaron Judge already. So there was no need to trade for him. That was a panic move by Brian Cashman because we didn't get Ohtani. So he made the move for the NL MVP and got Stanton, who played the same position as Judge. When all the talk was about, okay, well, when Bryce Harper is a free agent, he's coming to the Yankee Stadium. And but they couldn't do that once they got Stanton because they couldn't afford it. And which is hard to say for the Yankees, but that move right there has derailed the Yankees from making a lot of moves that they could have. They could have went after Justin Verlander that year, and they didn't make a strong enough push because they had wasted all that money on Stanton. So that should have never happened. He has a no trade, so unfortunately, he ain't going nowhere unless.
So you're stuck with him. You're stuck with
him. If we would have been able to send him to the Dodgers the last couple years, I think he would have gone for that. But now even the Dodgers are starting to go down. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think you can even send him to the Dodgers. But he has no trade, so we're stuck with him for another 4 years, I think.
And a lot of money and a guy who's injury prone. Go ahead, Scott.
The thing with the Yankees
is that from the original contract? Sorry, is that from the original contract still from the Marlins days?
Yeah. Well, and that's the only good thing is that, technically he's cheap compared to all these other because we're only paying him like $24 million a year because the Marlins are paying like $10 million a year to him.
But that was like from his big contract when he was with the Florida Marlins. That was from his 400.
That was from his.
That is great. I can't believe that's still. I thought we had like a 3-year extension somewhere. That's
they signed him to the Marlins signed him to like a 10-year deal or something.
Yeah, it was like 10 or 12 years that they gave him.
It just feels like
we basically signed him like 2 years. They traded him to us like 2 years later. Like Derek Jeter got us. Okay. You know what I'm saying? As soon as he got to the team, he said, yeah, here, you got Stanton. And Brian Cashman, dumbass, took it, bro.
Go ahead,
so
Scott.
The thing with the Yankees, I know they're starting guys like Johnny Brito and Clark Schmidt, but the one guy that I still can't understand why they're starting is Domingo Germán. He's beyond terrible. When Rodon comes back, if he comes back, that's the guy that needs to come out of the starting rotation is Germán. He's just
they're just trying to eat innings, bro. They're just trying to eat innings because nobody can last more than 5 innings except for Garrett Cole. The bullpen is done already.
You thought Aaron Hicks was getting booed a lot. Germán got booed tremendously.
Bro, the whole team's getting booed. Aaron Boone coming out of the dugout is getting booed like a madman.
Johnny,
Hal Steinbrenner got booed a couple weeks ago. Yankee fans are pissed off at the world right now, bro.
You mentioned like they're paying Josh Johnson this money, and I think like the Cubs were in a similar situation for a long time with Jason Hayward. Like they signed Jason Hayward to this huge contract, lots of money, and he just was a disappointment. Like you were paying him pretty much just all this money to play, Gold Glove right fielder. He couldn't hit worth the lick the whole time he was in Chicago. But like it's kind of arrogance by the GM. Like, hey, we believed in this guy. We gotta play him because we paid all this money. I can't go out looking like an idiot because I'm the one that paid him. So like maybe he'll turn it around. We believed in him. We believe in him. And then eventually like the fans see it, and maybe even the manager sees it like, hey, this guy ain't shit, but because we are paying him this money, we gotta damn near play him because like what the hell are we paying him for?
Right. It's to justify the trade that they made. And that's the one thing that like really irks me about analytics, bro, is that analytics, they never take accountability for nothing.
Yeah.
They're always, the numbers said to do this. So that's why we did it. You know what I'm saying? We're not wrong. The numbers said to do this. So because of his defense, that's why they play him. He's batting like $1.20. You know what I'm saying? Like that's insane. Like you should not get opportunities to play if you can't even bat your weight.
You know what the 2023 Yankees sound is this year?
Bro, and the craziest thing is that I've been saying it for, like I said, like a month or two. I was like, yo, this year just it ain't feeling right. You know what I'm saying? Like this year, I wouldn't be surprised, or I wouldn't mind trading some pieces. Let these like we have some good young players that they're scared to bring up. Except the only one they brought up is Volpe and Cabrera, or whatever. But you got Jason Dominguez, you got Oswaldo Peralta. There's a lot of good young players. Bring them up and let them play, man. For real. I mean, they'll never do that because they're still in it and they're the Yankees and they don't feel that they can do stuff like that. But you know what I mean? Sometimes you just gotta bend the knee and just take the L and just, you know what I'm saying, see what you can get, see what you can salvage from some of these players, make some trades and try to replenish your farm system, and then, you know what I'm saying, make another run next year, but they'll never do that.
All right, let's shift gears from baseball talk here. Let's wrap up the NBA draft. What was your guys' final thoughts on the draft on Thursday night? Outside of, well, that shit was freaking really long, and a lot of smoke screens, more smoke screens than a Snoop Dogg contest, I thought, because going in we heard, hey, Zion could get traded, Dame could get traded, this team's going to trade for this person, they're going to trade up for this person, and in the end, none of that happened.
Right. Everything happened before the draft. It looked like the few trades. See, again, I've been getting some pushback on when I made the comment about Charlotte taking Brandon Miller. Like,
yeah,
I know people are talking about Scoot Henderson. I mean, is it that odd of a comparison? I mean, how far apart are these two kids? Like, I can't act like I watched a lot of college or a lot of G League to know. You know what I'm saying? Like this Scoot, like, he may be a great player, but this Miller kid looked pretty dominant. He's got size and he can shoot. It's how far off of a comparison are they? You know what I'm saying?
It's the inconsistency that I saw in the NCAA tournament when it was time to shine, when it's time to build your draft capital, when everybody's watching you, and you go out and score 0 points one game, you score like 9, and you have just a horrendous time when you lose to a team that you shouldn't have lost to anyways. I believe it was San Diego State. So, like, this is a guy that has been inconsistent throughout his college year last year. And yes, he has great size. He has great. I mean, this guy's stupid talented. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this guy sucks by any means. I don't think he goes number 2. I think Scoot would be your number 2 because that was a guy that could possibly go 1 right next to Victor there. And Scoot here, he's only, what is he, Scott? 17, 18, right?
I think he's 18 years old. Yeah.
18, right? Yeah, I guess you have to be 18 in the NBA draft. So he's right at that level where he's he's already really great. He's already played against NBA guys, NBA talent. You could say that with Brandon Miller, but he also played against a bunch of scrubs that didn't get drafted and that won't be in. Right. So like Scoot, he has that level already downed of what to expect going against NBA guys. And yes, these are bench players, but you got to start somewhere with the NBA talent. The guys that Brandon Miller face aren't even going to sniff the floor. Not even for it. And that's what you got to remember here going against what the G League guys that we're going to start seeing probably more often in this top 10 draft, in the top 10 of the draft, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 guys that went to college. So 5 and 5, and your top 5 was everybody, but Brandon Miller was the only one that went to college in the top 5. You're going to start seeing these guys from the G League, from the overseas, who play against talent that's actually has been in the NBA or are in the NBA at times, versus the college guys, where I think I'm a little worried about college basketball going forward. Because if you're seeing top 5 guys go like this young, that talent level in college is about to be dropping off big time, especially if it continues on.
Well, especially if they get rid of the one and done rule, right? Like if they get rid of the one and done rule, and they go back to the way it was like in the 90s, early 2000s, we'll see a lot of these kids from high school get drafted again. Those 2 twins, they went up a high school class to get into the G League quicker to prepare themselves for the NBA. So kudos to those 2. I mean, like they're going to make a lot of money now.
I don't know that there's going to be a lot of kids going straight from high school to the NBA. I think the G League will be, you know what I'm saying? Because if you're an NBA team, are you going to take a kid right out of high school who, I know LeBron James was something and Kobe was different. You know what I'm saying? Like there's dudes that okay, that dude, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yes.
Well,
But
forever,
not
yes.
everybody, you know what I'm saying? Because there were a lot of guys in the late 90s, early 2000s who just swore and they went into the NBA
Now-
draft, got drafted, and were garbage. But
Yeah,
they
for
got
every
drafted.
KG and for every Kobe and LeBron, there's a
yes.
Sebastian
Yeah.
Telfair,
Yeah,
there's a Kwame
exactly
Brown.
who I was thinking about.
You know.
Sebastian
Yeah.
Telfair.
So
Because I thought he was
so
all
here's,
right.
here's the but here's the thing. What Nick's talking about is these guys, these kids are essentially trying to get through high school quicker. So they might be graduating high school at 16 years old, 17 years old to try to get a year in. And yes, the NBA is going to stick to the 18 and over rule, right? So you got to be 18 to get drafted anyways, even if they get rid of the one and done. But if you graduate high school going in, a year early, where you can then go to the G League, go overseas and play a year, like that could happen.
No,
You could see.
I agree with you on that as far as that compared to the college game. I agree totally with that. Like I see, more people going to G League or overseas, like you said.
But Johnny? What's the difference? Here's the thing: if a kid is really eligible to go, what a year in college? Now he could do crappy in college. We've seen that, where kids number one projected, and then they get to college and it just does a translate or whatever. But like for the most part, if they're going to draft a 19-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid, they're going to draft a 19-year-old kid because most of these kids are 19 anyway. Right.
But at least I have 1 year of watching them against either college competition or G League competition or overseas, as opposed to coming straight from high school. Like, of course, they're dominating the high school game. You know what I mean? Because they have potential to go to the NBA. But at least you get 1 year of seeing them against comparable competition, whether it's a G League or something like that.
The sad thing is, too, like if you go 4 years at college, that's a knock on you.
Yes, it
is.
You
know what I mean? Oh, he played all. Like you look at, I don't think there's a place in this league for Drew Timme, but you look at Drew Timme, like
drafted.
He didn't get drafted. Oh, you went to college for Luka Garza a couple years ago was the men's national player of the year and didn't get drafted.
Right.
Like, he went to college.
It's almost like if you went to college for 4 years, it's because you suck. You had to stay in college because you weren't going to get drafted high.
College football is crazy. You got to think about this too. Now I just lost my train of thought here. There's some. Oh wait, because if they do draft a guy, right, the one and done rule, right, and they get a guy right out of high school and everything like that, and don't play, they don't play G League, they don't play college. You got to think about this too. They have the option to go play down in the G League. That if they start sucking, the teams can still hold on to their contract and just send them down. So you got to think that's that way too. Like, hey, we'll take a stab at this guy, but if he sucks, he's going to go down G League, and we'll give him a couple of years to see if he develops.
Well, here's the two things about the draft, and we mentioned it on Thursday night. This draft was so underwhelming and so bad after Wembanyama that the reason it went so long is because all these teams wrote a name down. They were trying to trade down. Yeah, they were trying to trade down, first of all. And second of all, they write a name down, and it's like, well, I don't really think – let's go with this guy. And they probably second-guessed themselves and triple-guessed themselves so many times in that 10 minutes that they got down to a minute and said, all right, we got to throw a name in, so let's throw – I think that happens with some of these teams where they just said – there was question marks all over the place with a majority of these top 15, 20 drafted guys. So
let me ask you guys this. Is there a player or that was drafted on Thursday night that outside of Victor Wembanyama that you want to see play, that you're like, oh, I'm gonna lock into him and I want to see what happens to him?
I mean, I'm gonna be biased. It's gonna be Grady Dick, because I saw the kind of passion he has for the game. I saw him last year with KU, of course, and doing his thing. The guy can shoot, the guy can drive, and he can play defense very well because he was with Bill Self for at least a year here. So, yeah, Grady Dick's going to be my guy with Toronto, a team that's looking to sell out their stuff, and a guy that's probably going to be somewhere near sniffing the starting lineup, kind of like a Christian Brown, like Denver had. And I think Grady Dick fits that kind of same role because Grady Dick gets better than Christian. If you don't know about that. So like Grady Dick, I think this is a guy that's one I'm going to be highlighting here of watching, because it's going to be a guy that's going to have plenty of opportunity to sniff that starting lineup.
I'm going to say that this guy, Bilal Coulibaly, I mean, Washington traded for him and got him.
Yeah.
So I want to see exactly, he's coming over from France. He was one beyond his teammate. So I want to see exactly what he's going to do with American basketball. It's a young kid, and he's got to learn an offensive system, and he's got to learn the speed and everything else that goes with the NBA. It may be 1 or 2 years before this kid finally starts playing the way that Washington thinks he can play. So.
Yeah,
Johnny,
Well,
you got to go.
I'm going to be I'm going to be paying attention to a couple, the Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson. Like I'm going to pay attention to both of those because of the whole who should have been number 2, number 3. I live right here in Tampa, close to Orlando. I pay attention to a lot of Orlando. I love the pick they got for Paolo. So I want to see what Anthony Black and I want to see what Jet Howard do for the Magic. So I'm interested to see what the Magic can do. But the Anthony Black, he's uber athletic and uber talented. So I'm anxious to see I'm anxious to see what him and Paolo could do. Because Paolo, like somebody said it on the show that he was okay. Nah, dude. Like he's gonna be a player. Paolo's gonna be a really, really good player. Yeah. Like his footwork already at his age is ridiculous down low. He's gonna be a baller. So if you get a couple pieces around him, Orlando may be able to make a little bit of noise. So it's gonna be anxious to see that. But and like I said, of course, the whole
I hope
who should have been.
I hope Anthony Black doesn't do well. So that's because he beat my Jayhawks in the Sweet 16 there. So I hope he doesn't.
But I do want to see how your boy does. You know what I'm saying? How great he did. I want to see how great he did.
For me, it's Cam Whitmore. Like the what happened? Like you know what I mean? Like
true.
Can he put this chip on his shoulder? Yeah, he fell all the way down, almost like to the Rockets.
Number 20.
The Rockets got
20 to the Rockets. Yeah. Which
this was a guy who was projected.
Former coach there. Watch for that team to build.
Yeah. This was a guy who was projected top 10, top 5 at times. You know what I mean? And then he fell all the way down to 20. What happened there? What kind of chip is going to put on this kid's shoulders to help that young Rockets team? That's a team that's just got littered with uber young, talented kids. And can Scott's former coach, get that team and kind of, it's crazy because in Boston, he was kind of part of that foundation, right, Scott? And then built them up and then, took over for Brad and got him to the finals, and then they had to let him go. They let him go. So now he gets to kind of do it again as the head coach to build up a couple young talented kids in Houston.
Yeah, and if you remember with the Udoka, the Celtics halfway through the season were struggling big time. In that year, and then all of a sudden they found the success that he wanted, and they went on a run, and it carried them all the way into the finals against Golden State. Whitmore slipped because of his medicals, obviously. There's something in that report that
correct
teams just said, I'm off. I need somebody now.
I mean, it worries me too, because is this something that they worry that's going to be a long-term thing, or is it just going to have them out the whole first year, and that's why teams didn't want to, say, because sometimes if you got the talent and you're just going to miss one season, teams are going to take that chance to just, okay, well, we'll sacrifice the 1 year because he's that good. I mean, he dropped all the way to 20
from top 7. He was
from top 5, top 7. Yeah. So that's gonna be interesting to see. Hopefully it's nothing long term for this kid. But it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I can't wait to watch San Antonio. Like I want to see what all the hype is about with this kid. I can't wait to watch him play.
Houston's doing it the right way. If they don't sign Harden, because he could be a poison to that team. Young, be very young. Take your lumps in the first year or two with Udoka.
No, Scott. No. Go get your guy. Udoka, go get your guy. The guy that wants out of Boston. Go get Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Make him your star. Go pay the guy.
I agree. But I saw an interview with Brad Stevens on the Celtics podcast on YouTube. I was just looking around and I saw it. They're all in on these 3.
I'm about to say, they're not doing that.
Yeah, they're not. They're going to sign
that's a lot of money
Brown to that max, that super max. Yeah. He wants him around. He thinks he can make the numbers work. And he said Brogdon's a really important thing, a really important fit into what they're doing going forward. So Brogdon's back too. They're not entertaining any offers on him. So
they're going to make one more run before they try to.
I think
you're saying because it's not like you can't trade those contracts anymore. You know what I'm saying? You could trade any contract apparently now. So they're going to keep those guys around and see what they can do with Porzingis. I actually like the fit there. I think he's going to open up the court. I mean, I know
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Oh my God, how do you trade Marcus Smart?" Easy, you trade Marcus. I mean, he's a good defensive player
Easily.
or whatever, but he ain't leading you to a title, obviously.
He's
You know what I'm
overpaid
saying?
a little
So-
bit.
right? And I
I
actually
get
like
him
his,
out.
right.
I wanted him out last year.
I like his
Steven
fit
said-
with Memphis, but I don't. I'm good with Boston making that trade.
Go ahead,
Steven
Scott.
said when they were talking about trading Smart, he literally sat there and stared at the wall for 5 minutes, saying to himself, "Am I really going to pull the trigger on this? Am I really going to do this?" So he was hesitant at first, and then he said, "You know what? I got to do it," and he did it.
Yeah.
But as Tanner said, they've gone as far the other night. They've gone as far as they can with Smart. He did everything he could. They needed to revamp a little bit, and getting Porzingis is not the work because he's got 1 year on his deal, and he's a free agent or he's done. So let's see how he meshes in with the Celtics here and how he does. If he doesn't mesh in, they won't sign him. They won't sign him.
But I'm with Tanner. Like they could have done it last year. I understand running it back because you just went to the finals, but they needed to do something. And I know they thought that the Malcolm Brogdon that was it.
That was it.
No, they needed. Yeah. They needed somebody to kind of open up the court for them, and I think Porzingis will do that for them because the kid can shoot. You know what I'm saying? If he can stay healthy, Porzingis, I think he'll help Boston out.
Right.
Nick, I do have something here on Cam Whitmore. I found it. Woj. Woj said the part of the reason Cam Whitmore fell in the draft was poor workouts and some not great interviews with teams over the last month. So his process in the draft did not help him at all. Apparently, it was pretty horrendous, is what some of the teams are saying. That it just wasn't
not a good sign.
It wasn't good.
No.
That's not a good sign because you're thinking, okay, well, it's an injury. Now it's an injury plus he didn't interview well, plus he didn't work out well. That's gonna be interesting. But I'm gonna be paying, like you said, Nick. I'll be paying attention to see what happened.
Yeah, let's see what happens with him because maybe he didn't want some of those teams that were interviewing. Maybe he didn't want to go to some of those teams.
Yeah,
You know?
Maybe that was the case too. But
I feel like Brandon Miller didn't want to go to Charlotte, and that's why he was talking shit about Michael Jordan. And I watched that interview. I don't know how MJ says, "Hey, this is the motherfucking GOAT. You ain't gonna be watching me airball free throws, asshole. I'll play you 1-on-1 and I'll beat you right now."
Don't forget.
That's the only reason we're drafting your ass, so I can beat you in practice.
Don't forget,
Every
the
day.
old Michael Jordan would have been all about that. He's outgoing. He sold his majority share. He's out of Charlotte, basically. I guess after the draft, that was his last major thing for the Hornets. So
I know. I just
really
wanted
cared what he said.
I wanted to see what MJ. Maybe MJ's. He's doing other stuff, so he's not really paying attention. But I just wanted to see MJ just call and be like, "Hey, this is the GOAT talking, the real GOAT. How dare
Paul
you?"
George?
Hey, don't act like he won't show up at practice though.
Exactly.
Even if he don't own the he'll just show up at practice one day.
I can't wait for LeBron to play Brandon Miller next year or this upcoming season because I feel like LeBron heard all the comments too. He goes, "Okay, I remember that." Just like Dylan Brooks, it's like, "Welcome to the league, buddy. Welcome to the league. I'm so dominant."
Johnny, let's go ahead. Let's get into the Cruising Top 5, the second edition of Cruising Top 5.
All right, and since we're on the basketball topic, it is to do with basketball. I'm going with these are my top 5 all-time basketball players that injuries derailed their greatness or their continued greatness. Now, we're not going to go back to Walton in the 70s. And we're not going that far back. We're going from the 90s on. You know what I'm saying? And so these are 5 guys that if I feel if they didn't get injured, they could have been some of the greatest players to ever play the game. All right, so we're going to start at 5, and this 5 might surprise some people, but I don't know if you remember Brandon Roy, but he was a badass in Portland. He was the number 6 pick in 2006. He was a rookie of the year. His first 3 years, he was an all-star all 3 years, all NBA his first 3 years, tore up his knee, was never the same, wound up retiring like 2 years later. Number 4, I got Penny. Penny Hardaway him and Shaq was supposed to be the greatest combo. He was in the league for 14 years, drafted in 93. He was the number 3 pick in the whole trade with Chris Webber. He was a 4-time All-Star, 4 times All-NBA. Hurt the year after Shaq left. And that was pretty much it for Penny after that. I mean, he hung on for 14 years or whatever, but he was never the same. Number 3 is Derrick Rose. Now he could have been number 1
in my heart. Number 1, I gotta hear the list.
He was. I mean, like when I give you my top 2, you'll probably understand why. Or you might disagree with me. And I love Derrick Rose, and I'm so glad that he got the MVP that year. He was so much fun to watch. Again, I was a Jordan fan, so I watched a lot of Bulls growing up. So I was happy that the Bulls actually had a good player. And he was fun to watch, but he was Rookie of the Year, 3-time All-Star, 4 times All-NBA. Of course, he won the MVP. And then he got injured a year and a half later after he won the MVP.
A year later.
Then he wound up blowing out his knee again a couple years after that.
No, the next year. Next year.
So back-to-back years. Jesus, Derek. But he was fun to watch. So he could have easily been number 1. And he, of course, was the number 1 pick in 2008. And he's still currently playing. I mean, he's on the Knicks bench, but whatever.
Not anymore. He's not. You got
number 2. I have Yao Ming. He was again the number 1 pick. He played 8 years in the league, Rookie of the Year, 6-time All-Star, 8-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA. He got injured, and in 2009, and basically the next year, played like 4 games and then was out of the league. Now, he actually got voted into the Hall of Fame, so that's part of why I put him a little bit over Derrick Rose. He was just he was a phenomenon, Yao Ming. So I thought, you know what I'm saying, that's why I gave him a bit of a bump there. You know what I'm saying? But again, I would not argue with you if you wanted Derrick Rose there. And then my number 1, a lot of people forget how great this kid was, but Grant Hill. Grant Hill is already a Hall of Famer, played for 18 years, was the Rookie of the Year. He was the 3rd pick in 1994, 7-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA. He was, besides Scottie Pippen, he was the first point forward on a Detroit team that was garbage. And it was just Grant Hill was just phenomenal.
And then he went to the Magic, was going to team up with T-Mac.
He tore up his ankle right when he was going to go with T-Mac, right before he signed to go to Orlando with T-Mac, and they were trying to get Tim Duncan down here too.
Yeah.
But they couldn't make they weren't willing to give Timmy everything he wanted. But that was going to be a great team, the match a team, pairing, I should say, with him and T-Mac. I was excited for that, but he never really could recover from those ankle injuries. But I think Grant Hill could have gone down as one of the greatest players of all time. But that injury just, that just messed them all up and derailed them. But so I got number 5, I got Brandon Roy. Number 4, I got Penny. And it's it's Penny Hardaway for people that don't, that don't understand it. Anthony Hardaway, if you want to get technical. But Penny at 4, Derrick Rose 3, Yao Ming 2, and my number 1 basketball player that injury derailed his greatness to me is Grant Hill, because I think he was still great, but I think he would have been one of the all-time greatest. Zion's too early for that, bro. It's too early to have Zion on that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, my number 1 and number 2 are both Hall of Famers. You know what I'm saying? Grant Hill's a Hall of Famer, Yao Ming's a Hall of Famer.
I'm still trying to figure out how you don't have Tracy and
Tracy McGrady.
No, he could have been on the list. Amari Stoudemire was right there. You know what I'm saying? As a possibility for me too.
You got
Jay Williams. Jay Williams was another one.
Yeah, Jay.
The motorcycle accident. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of guys that were right there, but these guys, in my opinion, and I like T-Mac. I thought he was great.
To Kenny's point here too, and that's your discretion. He's saying all these dudes had careers before the injury, and Roy, we didn't get to see it in what could have been. So he felt like Roy. I say Jay Williams should be on that list because Jay played 1 year, his rookie year, and then got in that horrific motorcycle accident. And we never got to see him.
That's why I didn't put him in there. Brandon Roy, you had 3 years where he was like a stud. You know what I'm saying? He was Rookie of the Year, and then like I said, he was all NBA his first 3 years in the league. He was all rookie his first year, and then the next 2 years he was, he made one of the all NBA teams. So he was a top 15 player his second and third year. His trajectory was really good, and it was for more than just one season. And I think Zion, if he decides to stop eating seconds and thirds,
Yeah,
and stops eating porn stars. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he could be a great, because I think Zion has the ability to be a phenomenal basketball player, but does he like Nick mentioned at the draft? Does he really want to play? Does he really love the game?
See, that's what I'm saying, Kenny. You can't have a Hall of Famer. He was dominant. Even Shaq says,
but that's
respect him.
But that's what I'm saying, though. Imagine how good these guys could have been had they not gotten in. Like I said, Grant Hill could have been a top 5, 7 player all time, possibly, if he, you know what I'm saying? And those are only the two Hall of Fame. Is Penny a Hall of Famer? Are you guys gonna put Penny in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Penny in the Hall of Famer. No. Derrick Rose, I love him. Derrick Rose ain't a Hall of Famer.
I don't. Here's
two Hall of Famers on the list, and Yao Ming only played 8 years. You know what I'm saying? And only played 6 of them because 2 of the years he was kind of hurt. You know what I'm saying? So the only one that I could hear you saying that, that they're Hall of Famers is the Grant Hill one. But again, that just goes to his greatness. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yao Ming's a Hall of Famer.
He had only played 6 years before or 7 years before he went to go to Orlando. So he only had 7 peak years.
I do want to clarify: the Hall of Fame is not just the NBA Hall of Fame; it's the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Grant Hill had a Hall of Fame type career in college.
Right,
like
in college, he's got a couple national titles in college.
And then
Yao Ming with all the stuff
international wise, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So here's what I would say. Here's what I would say. I think Grant Hill and Derrick Rose are code number 1s. Reason being,
that's fine.
Could see Derrick Rose just on this list, not anybody else. Just go on this list. Derrick Rose was going to have one of those careers that was going to be very special if he hadn't blown his knee out twice. So I think Derrick Rose, he'd be the star of whatever team he was on right now, but his knees have just given out on him, and he's a shell of himself. But that year in Chicago, when he won MVP, that was one of those years that was special. Yeah. So that's right. I mean, agreed. But if you just go by this list, Grant Hill and Derrick Rose are 1 and 1A. To be honest with you,
to me, it's Derrick Rose because, like Kenny said, is who were and what could have been. Like we saw what could have been with Derrick Rose.
That's why it wasn't a what could. It was just saying injuries derailed them from meeting their ultimate greatness. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't what could have
injuries that ruined their career.
Right. Basically. Okay.
Okay.
So you know what I'm saying? I couldn't figure out how to word it properly.
Yeah.
But if not for injuries, they,
what up, Sportscast?
They would have been even greater. Or some of these would have been really great. Stoudemire is another one. You know what I'm saying? Stoudemire and T-Mac. I get it with T-Mac. I get it with T-Mac.
You can go up and down. You can go up and down the NBA, and you could find.
Hey, this is true. Hey, hold on a second. Hey, pop that last one up there of Whitfield, Westcott, what he just said there, Tanner. Derrick Rose scored 50 in Minnesota and did his post-game interview. I cried that's true. Like, as a Bulls fan, we had like a special connection to Derrick Rose because we saw this young kid and what he did for that city and then our team. And we, the two ACLs, MCL surgeries. And then when he went out and put out one of his best performances in Minnesota and scored 50. And then it was like we all went on this journey with Derrick together, like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and then scored like 50. To me, it's insane. So
I thought he was going to take over the league, bro.
He was
they gave a couple pieces in Chicago.
He was ready.
Yeah, he was just going to be amazing, man.
That team. Remember the year he won the MVP, went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we lost to the Heat. And then we were the number 1 seed and lost. Then in the first round of that year, he tore his ACL. And you're talking about Joakim Noah was on that. Like that to me was one of outside of the Jordan eras. That's probably my favorite Bulls team. Is that 2-year, 3-year run with Derrick Rose. Jimmy Butler was coming along. Joakim Noah was an absolute stud.
And again, like you said, they lost to a stacked Heat team.
Yeah, you had Carlos Boozer, Luol Deng, and then they got Pau Gasol later. Like that team was ready to go. And then when Derrick went down, and then he tears his ACL, he comes back, and then plays 8 games, and then tears his MCL in the same knee, and then he's never been that explosiveness that he had. If you just go back, I mean, and just some of them dudes that he was
another one with that again is Penny. like Penny Hardaway was phenomenal, and then again he gets hurt right as Shaq leaves, and then you never get to see the true potential of what he could have been. But yeah, no, Derrick Rose was a lot of fun. Like I said, those few years with Brandon Roy was ridiculous in Portland, man. And it was, you know what I'm saying, it was fun.
Take a fan hat off for a minute. How many titles to all of you? How many titles do you think the Bulls would have won with Derrick Rose and that team?
Well, at least one. I think
one. At least one.
Because then, you know what I'm saying? Because, LeBron, you know what I'm saying? LeBron, he had his super team in Miami.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which, again,
but the Bulls were a little bit deeper.
That's why all the LeBron, Jordan, like stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? That he started the whole super team shit. And then that's why people like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that Derrick Rose Bulls team, they should have went to the final that year.
Is there anybody, you guys got anybody on Johnny's list that you think that we haven't mentioned that wasn't on there?
What about a guy that was
Jay
with
Williams
Brandon Roy's draft class? Jay Williams would be the one. But the guy that was with Brandon Roy's draft class, who's still active today, but he had a pretty big injury that kind of put him down a bunch of levels. Not Brandon, Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay, because he was he was very similar with Brandon Roy. They were compared very similar players, and he started with the Memphis for so long, or for like 6 years, 7 years, and then he got injured, and then it just kept injury after injury after injury. Now he's with the Jazz, but he's not the same player. He's not the same from when before that injury, because before that injury he was like, it was Brandon Roy, Rudy Gay. That's all we talked about a lot of times, and that was kind of gone after the injury.
The thing is that it can happen so quick, which is another reason. The reason why I did this list was right after the draft was because for all the excitement, and I of course do not wish injury on none of these kids, so please don't at me with that shit. You know what I'm saying? I want these kids to all stay healthy. And Kenny, I hear you on that, but they were already older.
Oladipo's
like
a good one.
LeBron and them, they were at in their prime. They hooked up together. You know that the Celtics, it was, let
me ask you guys this:
they were just desperate for a title towards the end of their career, so they all teamed up or whatever in Boston to win that title. These guys were, the Heat were in their prime with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Bosh. You know what I'm saying?
Because we're doing 90s. Let me and above, like also the last like 30 years. Let me ask you this: does Magic Johnson?
He's in a lot of top fives.
Wait. Are we talking about something different? Left the injury thing.
Well, because is AIDS an injury? I don't really know.
Yeah, so, but that was already 90. That was already. I mean, he had already established he had already paid like 12, 13 years.
What about Bird and his back at the end of his career? I mean, Bird would have played another 4 or 5 years.
That's not a bad one. That's not a bad one either, because that sucked when his back, because he couldn't even participate on the Dream Team like he wanted to.
No,
you know what I'm saying? So we didn't even get to see like the best of him there, because I watched a lot of Boston.
But Bird obviously had a great career before then. But
of course.
Talking about injuries derailing a full career. Right. Bird's got to be part of that, I think.
Yeah.
Scott, if we're talking about that for potential that could have came to it, Greg Oden's number one in that one.
Yeah, Greg.
I was about to say, Greg Oden's number one. Yeah. He's right. That's why I wanted some guys that put in a couple years. You know what I'm saying? Because if you want to go off of injuries that stopped a career from even starting, then Greg Oden. You know what I'm saying? There's a few.
Arenas,
Dan Bowie, when he came out in that draft, was the talk when he came out. Of course, you don't take him over Jordan.
Agent Zero.
He was coming off of a great college season, and there was a lot of hype for him, and he had injuries and didn't go nowhere either. So there's a lot of guys. If you want to do that one, that could be a list going down the road. But
here's another one that just popped
in my head.
Here's another one that didn't end because of injury. What about Lenny Bias?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
That's just tragedy. You know what I'm saying? That's tragedy. If you want if you want to go to tragic shit like that.
But I think him getting drafted by the Celtics at the start of his career, he wouldn't have been counted on to be the guy. He would have just meshed in with the other guys. And then another guy is Reggie Lewis. That's another guy that could have had a really good career, but because of his heart trouble, died too soon, left too soon. But
Right.
there's another guy, there's a bunch of guys that you could just go up and down the
I mean,
NBA.
again, if you want to go to back in the day, Bill Walton.
Yeah,
Bill Walton was a dominant player in college. He was part of that streak of 50 something or 70, or however many games that UCLA won. He was dominant in college, dominant when he got into the pros, and then constantly had foot injuries or whatever. But but I didn't want to go that far back because I didn't watch Bill Walton play until he was a bench player on the Celtics.
Me and
So
Keith,
you know what I'm saying? I wanted to go 90s where it's guys that I actually saw.
Me and Keith are the only two watched Bill Walton in his heyday. So
yes. Well, I was figuring when Tanner mentioned the 50-something team in the baseball, I was figuring you were senior in high school, 58. Right. So
senior in college.
Yeah, Blake Griffin.
Yeah, I don't really think so. No, I don't think so. Not Blake Griffin.
I think his talent just dropped off. I think his run was done.
Right. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
The game. Well, it didn't happen. The game has shifted outside of what some of those guys do. Right. Like Blake Griffin kind of came at the tail end, and now the league has shifted to where it's pretty much like everybody jack up threes, and that's not really his game. So the game has changed as far as.
I got some more basketball ones coming up. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I just wanted to do this one right after the draft, but I got some other basketball ones that we're gonna have some fun with. So
that was
get ready for these lists, yo.
The Cruz in top 5. So talent got injuries. What was the category of injuries?
Injuries that derailed possible greatness or continued greatness.
All right, so tune in next Sunday for another edition of the Cruz in top 5. Well, let's get our parting shots. Johnny, we'll start with you before we get up out of here.
All right. Well, it was another fun week. I'm digging these Sunday mornings, like saying like Nick says, have your coffee, and for other people, have your whatever morning stuff you do. And then come check us out. Had a lot of fun. Shout out to Dan Harris, of course, the super producer, the man that built this platform for us to have the opportunity to do this. The draft show was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. Come check us out again tomorrow night. The Johnny Cruz show, I'm still waiting to see about the guest for tomorrow night at 8:00. But if not, I may be running this solo right before our Let's Talk Sports show with, of course, Jim and Jonathan. But it was a lot of fun. And check out these top 5 lists. We're going to have a lot of fun with those going forward. So I look forward to the next one.
See you, college.
All right, bro.
One day, Alan. One day.
One day, Alan. Don't worry. You'll be on.
Go ahead.
Oh, and sorry. Before, shout out to Sam. You know what I'm saying? Let us know what's going on. Hope everything's well. Yeah. All positive vibes and good energy your way, bro. For real.
No doubt. Scott, go ahead and hit us with those gambling picks one more time and then your final thoughts.
Do that.
Gambling picks are Cincinnati, Atlanta over, Reds run line, Phillies money line. Those are the 3 that I'm really comfortable going with. First of all, shout out to Sam. Hopefully everything's going well. Prayers and thoughts are with you and your family. Congratulations. Shout out to Ryan Larison. Congratulations. He made the Scott Fish Bowl. Got his invitation yesterday. He is in. So shout out to Ryan. Congratulations to you. First time in. It's a first time Scott Fish Bowl entrant. It will be a wild scoring system that you got to catch up on and watch his fantasy shows because I'm going to be on one of his fantasy shows and we're going to do a Scott Fish Bowl mock, he said, in the next week or 2. So be watching out for that. And for everybody that doesn't know, it's a big time charity league. So, but shout out to Ryan, shout out to Dan. And Thursday night's NBA draft show was amazing. If you didn't catch it, go back and rewatch it again. It was really, really good.
So who were the 3 that won the prizes from you, Scott? So you can let everybody know.
It was Tanner, Dawson, Alan Perales, Ryan Larison.
Nice.
Those were the 3.
That sounds about right.
Go ahead, Tanner.
But before Tanner goes, we've all vowed to take Nick down in the Let's Talk Sports Fantasy League. Right. So we're coming.
I'm gonna say that was the time to the time to pull out the belt, Nick.
Hey, it's impossible, baby. You know what they say? To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Oh gosh. All right, guys, in case you don't know it, 4 days from now, the match is coming into play once again. This time it's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson versus Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Here's the deal. I'm rooting for, my guys, Mahomes and Kelce, but Steph Curry is stupid good. And he already carried Klay in the basketball court. He's going to carry Klay in the golf course as well. If you look at the handicaps, based off a couple days ago here, just what I saw here for the handicaps, Klay Thompson's at 12. By the way, lower is better, just so you guys know, in case you're not golf people. Lower is better. Klay Thompson's at 12 for handicap. Travis Kelce's 11, so pretty even there. Patrick Mahomes at 7.7 for handicap. Steph Curry, you guys any guesses on Steph Curry's?
Isn't he like a even?
3.
A scratch?
Isn't he a 3 or something?
You got a scratch, Johnny? You got a 3, Scott? Nick?
I'm going to say minus 15.
He's at 0.1 handicap. This is how good Steph Curry is, in case you don't know. This guy can play with the pros if he wants to.
I was going to say, he's basically a pro player.
So, Patrick Mahomes has a lot to carry on. Hopefully, Travis Kelce doesn't completely knock it out of the course and out of the fairway. So that's the big thing there. But I mean, this Steph Curry out here this is a tough time. This isn't Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers level. This is legitness. They have to go against. So this is going to be actually a really fun golf match. I'm excited to tune in here. So that's on June 29th, guys. Excited to check it out. So. Other than that, shout out Dan, shout out Sam, and let's keep this thing going.
Absolutely.
All right, 2 quick things real quick. Last night, if you missed it, go watch the Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria fight on UFC. Incredible fight. Remember the name Ilia Topuria. He could be in line for a title shot next in the featherweight division. Do I think he could beat Volk? I don't know, but he proved something last night. He could be right up there. I'd like to see him and maybe Arnold Allen, or maybe they just give it to Topuria next because Volk's fighting next month in 2 weeks, and we'll cover UFC that big pay-per-view on here in the Let's Talk Sports show soon. When it's getting ready to happen. So catch out that fight. Ilia Topuria looked like the real deal for UFC in the featherweight division. I'll be back tonight. Special edition of the Bodkins show is back, baby, with a special interview with none other than former football player Ricky Reynolds, former Patriot. So and Bucks and Patriots. So we'll be sitting down with him, talking a little football, talking life with none other than Ricky Reynolds. So tune in tonight, 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern. So I'm excited to sit down with Mr. Reynolds and talk some football. Other than that, we'll be back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central Time Zone, 9 Eastern. We'll have Jim Behringer, who's boots on the ground, covering the Forbidden Door. He's going to be boots on the ground for the NHL draft. So we're going to get Jim's weekend experience for AEW, and then his experience. We're going to talk to him before he goes to the NHL draft in Nashville. So we'll have Jim. We'll cover some little hockey, cover a lot of the wrestling that he covered this weekend. And then we'll cover little Wimbledon. We'll get his thoughts before Wimbledon kicks off this week for Wimbledon, and then we'll talk a little bit more baseball with Jonathan Grisham. We talked a little bit of these teams today, how real the Reds and a couple of these other teams. And my Cubs
might be talking about his Tigers. Might be talking about his Tigers too.
Yeah, hey, LSU Tigers. So Jonathan's going to be sitting flying high right now if the Tigers win today. And, hey, Cubs, just stay in London because you're beating the shit out of the Cardinals again right now. So just stay in London and play all your games in London because you're undefeated over there, baby. So, hey, that is true. Josh Emmett is a tough SOB, Whit. You're exactly right. That was a hell of a fight yesterday. So catch that out. We'll be back again, 8 o'clock Central Time Zone, 9 Eastern tomorrow with Jim and Jonathan on the Let's Talk Sports Show. Be a friend, tell a friend. See you tomorrow night. Tanner, hit that outro, baby.
One life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss. Just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep, move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fed. fast asleep, only scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me.